Hi everyone, my name's Anthony Cummins, and have you ever considered or wanted to be a samurai warrior? The problem we have is that most people don't understand one thing. You can never become a samurai warrior. I'm sorry guys, it just cannot be done. To be a samurai warrior, you have to live in a certain social context. You have to be in military command, and you have to have command over the populace to do it. But that doesn't mean you can't emulate the samurai and learn from them. We have a really big problem in the martial arts world today. We have lots of people who are trying to emulate samurai warfare and samurai martial arts. The problem is that most of it is a little bit fantasy, or it's on the periphery of samurai warfare and it has no real reflection of what the samurai actually did. For example, many people will sit in a dojo and they will do iaido, and they will do slow sword drawing exercises where they take up beautiful stances and they look beautiful, and it's almost like art in motion. The problem is that in reality this was totally different. Samurai in the main did not sit down with their swords, they stood up. Quick drawing your sword would probably be while you were walking. It would be while you were travelling, maybe at night, maybe in the wind, and it would be done as fast as possible, and the cut would be made as fast as possible. Of course this would be brutal and horrific, and the idea is to outdo the enemy and not die. So the idea of standing in a hall with your sword looking beautiful and having almost art and movement is a far cry from actually following the way of the samurai. So why are the samurai so attractive? So many people emulate their ways. What is it about the samurai that really holds people's attention? Probably it's the idea of a military and martial code that goes along with ethical codes and religious ideas. I think many Western people love the idea of samurai because it gives them an approach inside themselves. It gives them something to study. But it also, in our very modern world, gives you a friend base and a community and personal experience. People get to the dojo, they tie their pants on, they put the swords in their belt, they chat with friends, and they go through ritualized movements, and at the end of the night they've enjoyed themselves, they've created something beautiful, and they end up having day trips and making new friendships. Therefore, going through the samurai experience is quite a personal journey, and most people enjoy it and find it rewarding. The problem for me as a historical researcher is that has nothing to do with actually the life of a real samurai. Let me pose a question. How many dojos in the world sit down and the people get together with AK-47s and African tribal uniforms and t-shirts given out by Oxfam and things like that, with cocaine, and start becoming an African warlord, drug lord? How many people practice that way? None, okay? Nobody sits there pretending to be an African warlord. So why should we pretend to be a samurai? It's the same thing. Or is it? A warlord controls an area through military might. He has the final say on what is right, what is wrong. He says whether they live or die, punishment and all that. A samurai was the same. A samurai was a person who controlled an area through military conquest, and they would dictate to the people the laws of the land, and they would kill anyone they wanted to. There wasn't this idea of justice in that way. The Lord had the ability to give out the death punishment if he so wished. And there's lots of complicated laws involved with samurai life that very much reflect modern day Africa. So why do we love emulating the samurai but not African warlord? This idea that we can look back at the samurai and see a culture that's very well structured. We can see poetry, tea, we can see parties, we can see literacy. We have this idea of a high-end culture, but with a barbaric content. If I was alive in Victorian England, I'd call this the noble savage, i.e. they're quite savage in that they will kill people, but they have a noble concept and they have a concept of shame, justice and righteousness, even if their laws kill innocent people. That is why we love samurai, but we don't love the African drug lord, because we don't see that as a highly cultured society. We see it as a society that has fallen. But in the end, they're actually similarly the same thing. They even had drugs in old Japan and they probably used them. So we have this idea that people now cherry pick what they want about the samurai. They cherry pick and say, I would like to look beautiful in samurai clothes. I would like to read about Bushido, this single element of samurai life. And I would like to deal with the samurai katana because it is now become a masterpiece of art. But this is not reality. This is not becoming a samurai. And people genuinely believe they are becoming a samurai when they do this. They are not. They are emulating a fantasy, or let me say a carefully selected part of an ancient culture. As a historical researcher, I want to change this. I want to change the way the world deals with the samurai. So I've gone on this quest to find out what samurai actually did, what they thought and how their world evolved. Now, to do this and get the message across to you, I've started something called Natori Ryu, and book 1 of Natori Ryu is now out. Natori Ryu was an ancient and very real samurai school. It represents exactly what the samurai were learning at that time. Now, it's not going to teach you how to move nicely in beautiful clothes. It's not going to teach you how to look dramatic in poses with swordsmanship. What it is going to do is teach you the actual lessons samurai had. Of course, they did learn swordsmanship, so you still have to go to a sword school or a spear school or a swimming school. That is without doubt a truth. But that's up to your personal journey, and you have to find the correct sword school that teaches as close as possible to the original swordsmanship. But what Natori does is it gives you the framework for samurai life. You can't ever be a samurai, but in our modern day world you can study and emulate their ways, and you can learn from their ways. Some of it, of course, you can't use today. Some of it, of course, is ethically wrong, but much of it is great, and much of it will help train your mind, train your body, and probably lead you on a little bit of, let's say, a spiritual or a little bit of a personal journey, which you can start to question the world around you. So what I'm offering is Natori Ryu as a framework for samurai enthusiasts. If you love the samurai, you really need to know what the samurai were saying to each other. There's been lots of work on the samurai since the end of samurai times, but the problem is, and I've always said this, if you want to know about the samurai, ask the samurai themselves. And that's just what I did with Natori Ryu's Book of the Samurai. So go and get it, have a look at it, and start to implement it in your samurai training. Remember, you can't really be a samurai, but you can be a very successful, very articulate, and an extremely well-disciplined modern person. So make sure you go, have a read, and think, how can I improve my life? Information is in all the links below.